So yesterday I'm standing at a urinal inside of Arrowhead Stadium, halftime of the game. Chiefs are beating the Lions last night. And a guy turns to me, looks at me. He's in a Lions jersey. And he goes, "This place is loud as bleep." And I was like, "That's right, my man. Woo! Welcome to Arrowhead, baby. Can you believe that there's talk of getting rid of this place?" No, we didn't actually keep the conversation going. I was just trying to not get peed on at that point, okay? So I just said, "Yep, it's loud in here. Please aim straight, buddy. All right? Keep it going. Happy Monday." It's 6:05. It is a victory Monday across Kansas City. Chiefs beat the Lions 30-17. I was wrong on my prediction. John was wrong on his prediction. Mark, he kept the faith. He was not just right on his prediction. I believe he hit his big parlay, did he not?
The parlay wins.
The parlay wins.
Finally.
Parlay Van Sickle comes through on a Sunday night football matchup. Chiefs beat the Lions 30-17. Didn't it feel like the old days, scoring touchdowns and not settling for field goals? Offense was humming along. Man, that felt good last night.
That was so good.
Oh,
I loved watching that.
It was such a sight to see. My goodness. Outside of Butker, something going on there. He's got the yips a little bit. I don't know what's happening there. But it was a great night. Weather was beautiful. It felt like it was, late August, early September out there last night. Kate and I just went on a whim and had a great time. Bumped into Mayor Lucas as well. We'll tell you about that doozy of a meeting coming up later this morning on KCMO Talk Radio. But the Chiefs are back on track, and the world is also back on track this morning. The President of the United States is set to address the Israeli parliament coming up here shortly. This after all living hostages are released by Hamas 738 days after they were taken captive. The first 7 hostages returned this morning at 1:30 Central, and then the remaining 13 hostages were released in the last couple of hours by Hamas. It has been an incredibly emotional morning across all of Israel. The president right now is in Jerusalem. He will be addressing the Israeli parliament. But you are seeing celebrations all across the nation. Right now I'm looking at live shots of Tel Aviv, where you have people waving their Israeli flags, celebrating what has been 2 years of hell for that part of the world. And let's be very clear on why this ended. It ended because of one man, and that's Donald Trump. It doesn't matter whether or not you voted for Donald Trump. It doesn't matter today what you think of Donald Trump. But the reality of this situation and this war coming to an end is because of that guy. And not just his leadership here in the United States, but his leadership around the world. Because for 4 years, we had the substitute teacher in the White House. And the world, in large part, acted out. The worst actors, just like when you're back in 5th, 6th grade, right? The knuckleheads are going to be bigger knuckleheads when the substitute teacher is running the classroom. Joe Biden was the sub.
Come on, man.
And now you've got the permanent teacher back in the saddle. And all those knuckleheads in the classrooms, what are they doing? Well, they get back in line. At least temporarily. At least for the time being. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, world peace is here forever. That would be a fool's errand. But there is no doubt in my mind that for as long as this guy is here, and we know that's happening through January of 2029, the world is going to be a safer place. And that's better for all of us waking up today, not just in Kansas City, but around the country. It's indisputable that this news today, as you see these incredibly emotional photos and videos from Israel happening right in front of us right now after 2 years of this, is something that a lot of people didn't think was going to happen. And it's happening on this guy's watch. And, even CNN, during their live broadcast this morning from Israel, was absolutely impressed with the President of the United States.
And welcome back to CNN's breaking news coverage as we are covering a historic moment here in Israel, because for the first time in 2 years, over 2 years, 738 days. Hamas holds no living hostages in its captivity for the first time.
So this has been quite a scene this morning, and right now at 6:10 on a Monday, the President of the United States is getting set to address the Israeli parliament. He just received a standing ovation, and let's take a listen right now to this historic speech going on live from Jerusalem.
Jews are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity. This is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East. I want to express my gratitude to a man of exceptional courage and patriotism whose partnership did so much to make this momentous day possible. You know who I'm talking about. There's only one. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Bibi, please stand up.
Well, it's already been a busy morning. We're a half hour into the show, and the President of the United States speaking after 20 living hostages freed by Hamas this morning, signaling an end to the Israel-Hamas war that has been going on for over 2 years at this point, just a little over 2 years since that October 7th, 2023 tragic day where 1,200 Jews were killed in the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And the President of the United States in Jerusalem this morning giving a great, very Trumpian speech, all over the map, but also making it very clear that the world is a safer place today than it was yesterday. And he's absolutely right about that. And this is all because of the work of his team. And to his credit, the president in this speech has been very deferential towards Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, some of the people around him, his own son-in-law, Jared Kushner, my great son-in-law. We got to break his brains out once in a while. He's giving props all over the place. And yes, he's taking credit himself, but he's really making it about the team. It's like when Patrick Mahomes talks about a big win after he throws for 400 yards and the defense doesn't show up. He still credits the team. To Trump's credit, that's what he's doing right now in Jerusalem. But we have to be honest. It's because of him that we are even here today. Do you really believe? Just ask in your heart of hearts, whoever you voted for back on November 5th of last year, do you really think that Kamala Harris is ending this war if she is in the White House? Please. You know the answer and I know the answer. And Kamala Harris was actually asked about this over the weekend. She did an interview on MSNBC, and the host said, hey, listen, we got this peace deal coming. Shouldn't we give Trump some credit for this? And Kamala Harris eventually got to the answer after one big word salad. Here's what that sounded like.
When this airs, President Trump will be on his way to the Middle East. They have this deal between Israel and Palestine. Both former Secretaries of State Hillary Clinton and Antony Blinken have commended President Trump for the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Do you agree with them? Should he be commended?
Look, I don't think that we should hold in credit where it's due. First of all, let me say about that deal, I really do hope it becomes real and that the hostages are out, that Gaza is no longer being treated with such brutality of force, that aid goes in. And I commend the people who have been a part of this process. I commend the Qataris, the Egyptians, and the president.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the last guy, too. Yeah. I guess I'll commend him while I'm at it, says Kamala Harris to MSNBC over the weekend. Even Hillary Clinton telling CBS News over the weekend, quote, "I really commend President Trump and his administration, as well as Arab leaders in the region, for making the commitment to the 20-point plan and seeing a path forward for what's often called the day after. Most importantly, the conflict hopefully will end with the ceasefire." So that was Hillary Clinton very clearly stating, I give credit to this president and to this administration. And that should not be difficult to do because nothing about today is political. It's about saving lives. It's about ending war. But it also is a sign that peace through strength is not just a phrase. It's policy. When the worst actors on the planet fear the United States, and I mean in a way that it's like, I don't want to screw with these guys, right? When they have that fear, guess what? Good things happen around the world. We've seen it time and time again. I mean, most recently in most of our lifetimes, you saw it during the Reagan years. And that's in many ways very similar to what President Trump's policy has been when it comes to foreign affairs. I know there's a nationalist approach that a lot of people like to lean into when it comes to the president of the United States and, an isolation mentality. But in many ways, it's not all that different from what Reagan implemented during his time in office, right? The best way to be able to focus on America first is to make sure the rest of the world is in order with a peace through strength approach. And that's what we're literally living through right now. And we're seeing this happen firsthand in Jerusalem with the president of the United States being there this morning. You had 20 hostages released this morning, 7 at about 1:30 Central Time, our time here in Kansas City. And then you had the other 13 released by Hamas in the last few hours. But this is just an incredible day and a historic day. And we will have more reaction on it throughout the morning. And also hear from you at 913-408-7957. That's the studio line and the text line here on KCMO Talk Radio as we hit 640 on a Monday, a victory Monday. The Chiefs get back to 3-3. Mark Van Sickle hits his big parlay that he gave you on Friday morning in our buy, sell, hold segment that we do at 8:45. That's why if you're on the early side of things, just catch us on the podcast if you can't be here in the 8 o'clock hour because Mark's trying to make you money. Listen, these are tough times, but old Mark Van Sickle's making you some money in there.
That's right. If you listen back after the show on a Friday, you'll get to it before a Sunday game.
Oh, you absolutely will. No doubt about it. And also, just a quick programming note. I know on Friday we told you about how we got the boot from doing the Gardner-Edgerton football game on Friday. Who were they supposed to play? They played Olathe East. That's right. Your alma mater. So we got the 11th hour hook from Gardner-Edgerton. So we decided to do, Blue Valley West.
Blue Valley West versus Blue Valley Southwest. Homecoming for Blue Valley West.
All right. So that game we did on Friday, we whipped it all together at the last minute. Credit to Blue Valley West and Blue Valley Southwest for having us on Friday night. It made it easier for us since we had already done a Blue Valley West game. So technically speaking, we knew what we needed to do to pull that game off. But we heard from many athletic directors and many of you in the high school football scene around Kansas City. We thank you, but we just had to do a game that we knew we could pull off technically at the last minute. But basically, Gardner-Edgerton gave us the boot, as I understand it, in talking to their athletic director, because we use student broadcasters as our color analysts. We have our professional play-by-play guy, and then we have our color analysts who are students at the respective schools of the games that we're calling. And the Gardner-Edgerton AD said he did not like the fact that we had a questionnaire for the students that included things like, hey, tell us about your teammates, share some insight into your teammates that maybe they won't hear on other broadcasts. So just kind of take us behind the scenes. And this is something we've done in conjunction with Sportscaster.com all season. They have a history of doing this in other cities. And this is the first time an AD pulled the plug at the 11th hour because of his ego. So you have, sadly, young broadcasters who had an opportunity of a lifetime taken out of their hands this past Friday night because of their own administration, because of their own bureaucracy. I just find that sad. I find that disappointing, and it didn't need to be that way. It really didn't. But to each their own. To think that these kids didn't get a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to broadcast on this radio station because the AD didn't like the questionnaire and he wanted to see it first, that is not what teaching and coaching up our young people is supposed to be all about, okay? It's not. But you know what? Some people make it about them instead of making it about the kids first. It's a darn shame. A historic day. As the president said, the Holy Land is finally at peace. This celebration is happening right now in Tel Aviv. You are seeing the American flag being waved around, of course, with the Israeli flag as well. The president of the United States just wrapping up an hour-long speech. It started at about 6:10 Central Time this morning here in Kansas City. We carried about the first 15 minutes of it. And then we made the executive decision of Trump's not going to stop anytime soon. He was on a heater, man. He was thanking everybody. And you know what? That's a testament to him. He was thanking everybody. He was like the quarterback of the head coach, not taking all the credit, but sharing the love, talking about his teammates. That's what the president did over this hour-long speech. But obviously, not that Trump's one to not toot his own horn. Obviously, he is, and he did that as well, including this moment where he made sure to take a dig at one of his predecessors as well.
Good to say it. But when you settle 8 wars in 8 months, that means you don't like war. Everyone thought I was going to be brutal. In fact, I remember Hillary Clinton during a debate, she said, look at him, he's going to go to war with everybody. And actually, she said, he's got a personality that's all about war. No, and my personality actually is all about stopping wars. And it seems to work. It seems to work. But it also means this name change and our attitude that we're not going to go into a war. But if we do, we're going to win that war like nobody has ever won a war before. We will not be politically correct, but we're not going to be there. And I think, you know, as you mentioned, good.
There you go. That was President Trump, part of this hour-long speech he just gave to the Israeli parliament that just wrapped up here in the last 5 to 10 minutes or so. It was, you know, a classic President Trump speech. But he is right to note that all the people who said this guy was unhinged, this goes back to 2016. He was unhinged. He was irresponsible. The world was going to hate us. There was going to be more global conflict because of Donald Trump. They were wrong from 16 to 20, and now through 8-9 months, they're wrong again. This guy continues to prove that peace through strength is actually a policy that works. Not peace through deference. Not going around the globe and apologizing on behalf of America. Not saying, hey, don't worry, we're not here to bother you. Not having pride in what America has been over the last 250 years and being proud of the strength of this military and what America has done for the world over 250 years. No, it's what you want to do is you want to make sure you project that kind of strength to the worst actors on the planet. And that is what President Trump did in this process in ending this war after 2+ years. And this morning, 20 hostages are now back home.
No more peace through placation. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Right?
Yes. I don't know if we got one of those from the president this morning. We'll try to look it up after that hour-long speech. But a big thank you for your attention to this matter from President Trump. And he can break that one out now whenever he wants. This is a bad day for those who have spent years claiming this guy is Hitler. A real bad day. You know, this is the final nail in the coffin of the Hitler dictator nonsense. You see a guy who just addressed the world and said, we are bringing peace to places that, let's be honest, his predecessor could not. Despite the fact that you have former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken saying yesterday, it's good that President Trump adopted and built on the plan the Biden administration developed. Are you kidding me? You can't be serious. I mean, this is just... I'm speechless. And that's a problem when you do this for a living. But I'm speechless that anyone would have the audacity to look at what's developed in the Middle East over the last few months and really the last few weeks and come to any conclusion that, thank goodness we had Biden's plan in place. What was the Biden plan exactly? Is anyone clear on what exactly that was outside of building a bridge to nowhere along the coast of the Gaza Strip that cost us, what, like $50 million or something like that? What does that entail? That's just unbelievable that anyone could even come to that conclusion, but I guess I won't put it past anybody. I wouldn't be shocked if that becomes a talking point today on certain cable news channels. You know, none of this would have happened without the Biden administration. Really? What you saw during Biden's 4 years and Obama's 8 years prior to that was these bad actors, especially in the Middle East, having zero respect for American authority on the world stage. None, John.
That's like your broken clock being right 2 times a day. There,
yes.
I think, right?
That's exactly what this is.
In a left-handed way, they're correct.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness gracious. What a morning it is as the president is going to now meet with 20-plus world leaders in Egypt. That is where he is off to next. Of course, the government shutdown is now on day 13. But this is an enormous win. I mean, most importantly for Israel and for the world and for the Middle East and for peace in that region. It's a big win for the people of the Gaza Strip as well. Let's be honest. You know, a lot of those people are just victims of their own circumstances. They can't read. They're scared to death of getting killed by the terrorists that run the Gaza Strip. And today, their lives, for all those men, women, and children, they're safer as well, and they're better off. And that's because of the people in charge with this administration. That's indisputable. I'm at the point where I would not pick up Woody's feces with the Kansas City Star because I think that would actually be insulting to my dog's poop. I really do. I just read this in the Kansas City Star. I wanted to make sure I was up to speed on what they were writing about this morning, and shame on me, but, you know, my doctor told me to not read the Star before 8 a.m. It just wouldn't be good for my blood pressure, so I try not to look at it prior to 8 a.m. So, you know, 8:15, I figure, let me just check out what's going on. And they had this piece here, a special, the Star, headline, Did Charlie Kirk's murder change minds on guns and the Second Amendment? And the piece is written by a professor of psychology at KU. His name is Chris Crandall. And the president-elect of the Society for Personality and Social Psychology, Kelly Swanson, a graduate student in psychology at the University of Kansas. So a couple of psych wackos at KU are writing a piece to the Kansas City Star, and I'm sure you know how this is going to go, right? This is not going to shock you. But they start off the piece saying that on September 10th, conservative activist Charlie Kirk was murdered in Utah with a rifle commonly used for hunting. The murder drew condemnation across the political spectrum and led to a predictable debate about the value of guns. They go on to basically write here that the Charlie Kirk assassination did not change people's opinions on guns. It didn't change the way conservatives look at guns. It didn't change the way liberals look at guns. And it didn't change the way independents look at guns. Okay. I'm not shocked by that, are you? But this is what really stood out to me and bothered me. They write here that Charlie Kirk had been remarkably honest about the value of gun access. He acknowledged that some deaths every year were the price of the Second Amendment, a price he paid himself. That's a lie. Charlie Kirk was not killed because we have the Second Amendment. We don't have all the information, first off, on how this young man, got this gun. Of course, we believe he was walking with this gun in his pants. It appeared to be a family weapon. This person did not have any kind of a background that would suggest that he could not own that gun. So you tell me, what law would you have enacted that would have prevented this person from accessing that weapon with no real track record? It's the same thing in Minneapolis with those poor kids a few weeks back. You had somebody who went out there and bought that weapon who had no background to suggest they could not buy that weapon in a state in Minnesota that has red flag laws. So no, Charlie Kirk was not a victim of the Second Amendment and a robust Second Amendment. He was a victim of dangerous rhetoric that had been permeating against himself, the president, and millions of conservatives for several years now. When you believe your political opponents are fascists and mini little Hitlers, you get people who are mentally deranged that then act on that. And when that stuff gets mainstreamed, this is the result, tragically. Charlie Kirk's assassination was not about a Second Amendment and having a Second Amendment and having access to weapons. The access to weapons was the fallout of what got Charlie Kirk killed. But it was not the reason that Charlie Kirk lost his life at all. To suggest that every murder that happens is somehow the result of having a Second Amendment in America is so disingenuous. We were just talking about the bus system, right? We were just talking about how New York City might have free buses. Kansas City's tried it. It's been, I believe, an abject failure. You can disagree with that if you want, but, there's not a lot of evidence to back you up when ridership has not passed levels from pre-COVID, despite there being more people living in Kansas City. Same thing with this. Same thing with the gun issue. Every single time it comes up, people want to point the finger at the same exact thing over and over and over again. And that's not what this story is about. But leave it to a couple of psych wackos at KU, who then the Kansas City Star publishes, and they put out there this morning in the newspaper, and this is the kind of stuff that you get. And even by their standards, I was surprised. But to basically blame Charlie Kirk for his own murder is as disgusting as it gets. They never want to say, hey, what led to somebody picking up a weapon that gets used all the time as a tool? I mean, most guns obviously are not used to break the law in this country. There's hundreds of millions of guns right now circulating in America. The vast majority, 99.99% of them, are not used to do bad things. But that's immediately where they want to go. Ask yourself why. So Kansas City Star doing what it does, but that, even by their standards, was bad. And I promise you, Woody, when I get home today, if I'm at a Doggy Bags, I will not use a Kansas City Star to pick up your number 2. I just won't do it, pal. That would be an insult to what's coming out of your body. That just wouldn't be fair, my man, at all. We are looking at the President of the United States departing Israel. He is now going to Egypt for a peace summit. The President of Peace. That's what he likes to call himself. And you know what? He's right. I know he ended 8 wars. He's talking about the 8 wars in 8 months. And I don't care if it's 5, 6, 7, or 8. But you know what? The President of the United States he's on a heater right now when it comes to overseas affairs. So he's leaving Israel. He gave an hour-long speech to the Israeli parliament this morning. He now is going to Egypt for a peace summit. And he is expected to speak there as well. When does this guy sleep, man? I mean, I came in here a little groggy this morning after being at the Chiefs game last night. Didn't get to bed until about 11 o'clock. You come home, you're kind of wired. You got to calm down. Your ears are ringing. And then I turn around for a 4 o'clock wake up, and I'm like, okay, oh, boy, I'm feeling it a little bit. I'm half of Trump's age, less than half of Trump's age. This guy's 80, and his body clock is like 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know where he slept, if at all, in Air Force One. And now he's just like, all right, gave an hour-long speech in Israel, Now I'm going to Egypt, and, what's next after that, John? He just doesn't end it, man.
A lot of people want to see me. Got to get out there and see the folks.
Shake the hands, kiss the babies.
I imagine that's what he's thinking. A lot of people want to see me.
Yep, and there we go. Air Force One is literally taking off the runway right now, going from Israel to Egypt for this peace summit. So we will be monitoring this all morning long on what has been a historic morning here on KCMO Talk Radio and around the world. 95.7 FM, of course, is where you listen to us. And if you are off today for Columbus Day, you can stream us on the KCMO Talk Radio app, or just tell your Alexa or your Google Home to play KCMO Talk Radio, and you can listen to us in the house from the home office, whatever you're doing today, if you are off for Columbus Day. So I wasn't expecting to, but last night, Kate and I went to the game. We saw the Chiefs, of course, beat the Lions in what was just a nice bounce-back win for Kansas City after that Monday night loss in Jacksonville. And I happened to bump into Mayor Lucas, and I knew I was going to talk about this today on the show, so I gave him a hard time about it last night. Because I'm one of those people where I will basically say anything I'm going to say on the show to your face. I think that's the right way to go about doing this. And I said to the mayor last night, I said, I saw you joined the Bulwark podcast. Now, if you don't know the Bulwark, it is an online publication founded by Bill Kristol and Charlie Sykes. They are two guys who were longtime neoconservatives, who got super triggered by Trump, and now they're just like the darling of the left, and their online publication is called The Bulwark. Like, Bill Kristol was all about John McCain. He loved the Iraq War. He said it was going to be a 2-month war, and obviously that was not true. This guy loved involving American troops overseas. And his track record on foreign policy is not all that good. So he gets triggered by Trump, all mad at Trump. I wonder what he's thinking today as Trump solves world peace in the Middle East. But, we'll save that for another day. Anyway, he starts this online publication called The Bulwark, and they're basically just a never Trump operation. That's what they are. And listen, they can be that. That's fine. They're entitled to do that. Totally cool. I don't think the business model is all that strong, but they go on MSNBC and some of the other places once in a while to get their jollies. So Quentin Lucas was on their podcast, and I'll play for you what he said. But first, I said to him last night, I said, what are you joining the Bulwark for? And he's like, I don't even know what that is. I just got asked to do it. I'm like, no. Stop with that. I'm like, come on. It's a never Trump operation. He's like, I just get asked to do these media interviews, and I do them. I'm like, come on. I kind of rolled my eyes at him. But anyway, he goes on the Bulwark podcast. They share this as a YouTube short. And the mayor was asked, as a blue mayor in a red state, what his thoughts were on the president utilizing the National Guard in major American cities. We know about Chicago. We know about, Memphis. I would say bring them to Kansas City, but I'm not the mayor. Here's what Quentin Lucas told the Bulwark.
How do you, as a Democratic mayor in a blue city in a red state, think about the deployment of National Guard?
I go with it in a few steps. Step one, this is just totally idiotic. So I was in Washington recently, and I was, forget which circle I was by. You guys have lots of them, right? And I saw the National Guard walking in threes, kind of just looked like they were hanging out. And I said, I feel no safer. This doesn't really seem like a good use of their time and isn't really changing anything, at least in the area I was in Washington. Indeed, there was a homeless guy actually sleeping on the church step, like, just a few feet away, kind of like, hey, everybody, right? So you didn't even change on the ground conduct. Maybe this would all just be a laughable vignette into America in 2025 if it didn't have a cost, which is a substantial multi-million-dollar cost to the American people. And second, if it didn't have a negative impact on local community law enforcement relations. So step one, this should not be happening. It should be something that is collaborative and at the request of communities. And so that's where I go from there.
So he's playing to the camera there with the Bulwark. That's what they want to hear, right? I mean, that's it. That's what they want to hear. The Bulwark is a never Trump online outlet, and they wanted to find a blue mayor in a red state who was going to basically crap all over the president using the National Guard in major American cities. But I can't imagine turning down and making fun of what is really a generous offer to help keep your citizens safer and fix the mess many of these mayors are incapable of fixing. Just process that for a second, right? Kansas City's dealt with its deadliest half decade in modern history. I don't care who it is. You want to send the National Guard, you want to have ICE agents, whoever you want to have that's in law enforcement, that's helping out Kansas City, saying no to that over politics is not looking out for the best interests of the citizens of any community. And I understand the politics here. I get it. We've talked about it extensively since this became a local and national topic over the last few weeks. The politics of it are one thing, but then you actually step back and you look at the reality of what's going on here in this country and around the country and in major American cities over the last few years. And it's like, anything is better than nothing. And suddenly people who are fans of the Inflation Reduction Act and jacking up inflation 20% the last 5 years are going to worry about the cost of anything? Come on. $37 trillion in debt, whistling past the graveyard, and now we're going to nickel and dime on the cost of having a few National Guards troops in major American cities? Spare me. Who's buying that? So the mayor and I talked about this last night. We had the conversation. I'm like, do not join the bulwark. Please, don't do it. I saw what you said. Don't join the bulwark. And, he played it off like he didn't know what he was doing. And, yeah, I kind of appreciate that in some respects. But I told him, I said, it's on my agenda for the morning. And I'm hoping that figure by 9 o'clock, he was up and at it after a long night at Arrowhead last night. But we did agree. And he did admit that he gets more anecdotal feedback joining this show than any other radio hit he does in Kansas City. And I told him that's because we're kicking butt when it comes to ratings and listenership in this town, more so than any of our competitors. And I think he was a little surprised by that, but then again, he wasn't, which I appreciate. They called him a fool. They called him a madman. They mocked him as a clown. They smeared him as a warmongerer. They said American leadership was over. And today was another day where President Trump proved them all wrong. That's right.
Wrong.
Good morning, 9:05 on a busy Monday morning, a historic Monday morning, as the 20 living hostages were returned in the early morning hours here in Kansas City to Israel from Hamas. And the president gave an hour-long address to the Israeli parliament after these 20 hostages alive in Gaza returned to Israel, closing a chapter on this 2-year war. It is once again a reminder that as we sit here on a Monday morning and look at the world stage, the world is a safer place and the world is a more peaceful place because of this president, because of Donald Trump. Despite everything they said that he was going to do, going back to 2016, Hillary Clinton used some of these allegations. He's crazy, man. Oh, boy, you just wait. There's going to be chaos all over the world with President Trump. You remember that well, John. Same thing with Biden.
The subtext, of course, being he's going to rat us all out. He's crazy.
He's going to prove us all wrong.
Yeah.
And then Biden did it. And then Kamala Harris did it as well. But you know what? We are living through it here. We literally A/B tested this whole thing on the world stage. You have 4 years of President Trump from 16 to 20, where you did have far more peace around the world. We then took a 4-year break, made a 4-year mistake. And what did you see? From the withdrawal in Afghanistan to the Russia-Ukraine war to then October 7th in Israel, what you saw was the most evil people on the planet act out when Joe Biden was in office.
Let's not forget our friends in China.
Yes.
And Taiwan.
And they were absolutely screwing around as well. And then over the last 8-9 months, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not suggesting there is not still work to do. Of course, Russia-Ukraine is the big one that the president has been frustrated by. He even said over the weekend on Air Force One, he's more surprised he got this done before he got Russia-Ukraine done, which tells you what a madman Putin has turned into. But we are sitting here with, for now, and of course that's the key phrase, relative peace in the Middle East, hostages from Israel back home, and we have American flags and MAGA hats being waved around Tel Aviv. That's what we have going on. Even Wolf Blitzer, who's got the permanent constipation look on his face, was admitting as much over the weekend.
And, of course, endless applause for President Trump. Endless applause for President Trump.
And when I was there, I even saw people wearing Make America Great Again hats in that crowd over at Hostage Square.
You think Wolf Blitzer normally looks constipated? You should have seen the look on his face when he said that on the air. He was really just, he was clenching those teeth, man.
Used to be a commercial that would say, "Where will you be when your laxative kicks in?" Kind of like that.
That's exactly what he looked like. But this is not about left versus right. It's not about Republican, Democrat. It's not conservative, liberal. Okay, if you are someone who has been like, rah, rah, free Palestine, if that's been your mantra over the last couple of years, you have to be encouraged by what's happening today. This is a win for everybody. Yes, Israel is getting its hostages back. But you know what? The people in Gaza are better off today on the Strip. Let's not forget. I mean, we all should have sympathy for a lot of these people in Gaza. They can't read. They're scared to death of losing their lives, of their kids getting killed, of, God knows what these awful terrorists that run the Gaza Strip are going to do to them at any given point in time. Yes, their lives have been upended. And while I'm staunchly in support of, what Israel has done to defend itself over these last couple of years, I still have incredible sympathy for the innocent people, especially in the Gaza Strip, who don't really have an understanding as to what's going on because of the propaganda, because of their lack of education, and the brainwashing and the fear that they are forced to live under. They are better off today. They are safer today. They can hopefully get to some semblance of a rebuild today because of the peace deal that has been negotiated by this president, by President Trump leading the way. And during his hour-long speech this morning, he did give a lot of credit to those around him. Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, and even his son-in-law, who worked extensively with him during the first administration. But for this administration, Jared and Ivanka have mostly stayed on the sidelines until Trump had to basically tap Jared out of the bullpen to help him get this deal done.
And let me also give a very special thanks to someone who truly loves Israel. In fact, loves it so much that my daughter converted. My daughter converted. I didn't know this was going to happen. And Ivanka's here.
Ivanka's here. My daughter converted. Oh, boy, we love the Jewish people. We love the Italians on Columbus Day. We love the Jews. We love them all. It was a classic Trump speech. You could tell he was in a good mood while he was giving this speech this morning because this is a critical part of not just his legacy. That's really secondary to what this means for the world, but it's better for all of us today. Like, I know, I understand some people are driving to work and they're like, listen, I got bills to pay. My costs are still too damn high. World peace is good for all of us. It is a reminder that America, when it leads on the world stage through strength, the world is a better place. It means that back here at home, we can refocus energy and attention on other things happening. It is part of the America First agenda. I know there's some belief that the America First agenda has to be all about isolationism. And we just sit here as isolationists. We don't care about what goes on in the rest of the world. That can't be true in 2025. It can't be. First off, you have the faith religious element to what the Holy Land is all about. That matters to Jews and Christians. But secondarily, in a global economy, this is good for all of us. And it hopefully is a step in the right direction towards peace in other conflicts, most notably Ukraine and Russia. Putin's watching this closely. And while it seems like he has totally gone off the deep end and there's really no negotiating to be had, if there's ever an opportunity to reset that conversation, now seems like as good a time as any. And even Donald Trump's biggest critics, like this morning on MSNBC, you got that clip there, Mark? Even this morning on MSNBC, you've got some of his biggest critics out there saying, you know what? We have to give credit where it's due. Here we go.
Yeah, so many questions remain as to whether Hamas will indeed demilitarize, will they give up their weapons? There's a lot of skepticism about that. John Meacham, as we await President Trump, we expect his remarks in the next little bit here, and we'll obviously keep watching the proceedings there in Jerusalem. Just your thoughts. It is a historic day. We don't know if it will be the first chapter of a longer story of peace for the Middle East. The president's trying to frame it that way. We simply don't know. But even just for what today means, give us your thoughts, your perspective.
It's a terrific day for the hostage families. It's a terrific day for President Trump, for our national interests. You're right. We don't know how the story ends, but stories are made up of chapters. As Richard Haas knows, he was very much in the arena now 35 years ago. At the end of the first Gulf War, when there was a great conference in Madrid as we tried to reset the peace process. 9 years later, President Clinton, in the last hours of his presidency, made a noble attempt at Camp David. We can go on and on about the various chapters, but we should make no mistake about this. This is a victory for President Trump and for those who wish that we can govern ourselves at home and around the world, not simply by brute force, but by ideas and civilized norms.
That was this morning on MSNBC. And remember, Hamas no longer has the bargaining chip of hostages. That is a huge part of the future for that region, that they no longer have those hostages as part of a bargaining tool. And while MSNBC is going to do the whole, we don't know what it means. I mean, sure, yes, we don't know. I know Trump speculated last week, this could be peace for 500 years or 3,000 years. I'm going to say it's going to be maybe 3 years while he's in the White House, and God willing, that continues beyond then. We don't know for sure. What we do know is that for today and for the foreseeable short-term future, lives have been saved. The region is safer. The region is more secure. And as a result, the world is safer and more secure than it was just a few short weeks ago. And that is a great win for America. And yes, for the America First agenda. 9:15. It is great to be here on a Monday morning on KCMO in Kansas City. 95.7 FM is where you can set that preset right now on your radio dial on this historic day. The president has left Israel. He is now going to a Middle East peace summit in Egypt. He is on Air Force One, getting set to land in Egypt momentarily. I hope he got some shut-eye. I hope the guy got a little bit of a nap in there. My goodness, it's unbelievable. I'm coming off a short night of sleep being at Arrowhead, and I'm like, dragging it a little bit. This guy, more than double my age, just doesn't stop. It's unbelievable. And he's working on behalf of the American people. All of us. Left, right, in the middle. That is what today is also about. It's one of those days where you should break down the political walls, break down the political colors, and see this for the win that it is. We'll see. If even MSNBC can get there, I've got the hope for the rest of you as well. All right, we'll get to what happened in our high school football game of the week. I know a lot of you were asking about that after we told you about some issues on Friday. But first, the president just spoke moments ago with Fox News. He has landed in Egypt after his trip to Israel. He addressed the Israeli parliament. The historic peace deal is done. 20 hostages released this morning. Here's the president moments ago with Fox.
If somebody's sitting over there with a nuclear weapon over your head. And I think when we did that, and there were other obviously very warlike things that we did over the course of 4 or 5 years, if setting the table. But when we did the when we took away that destructive capability from Iran.
The president spoke about a variety of topics concerning the Middle East.
What did they do? They just cut it off mid-sentence? All right. Well, you could tell what the president was going for there. All right. I guess we're done there, Mark. What the president was alluding to was the Operation Midnight Hammer, which, of course, began here at Whiteman Air Force Base. You had the men and women fly to Iran, hit the nuclear sites of the Iranian regime, come back here to Missouri, and the president, it sounded like what he was getting at there is that basically laid the foundation for this peace deal between Israel and Hamas. And it resulted in the 20 hostages getting released this morning. So great news all around on that front. A historic day, and we've been covering it all morning long on KCMO. The president has just arrived in Egypt for a peace summit. He is set to walk off of Air Force One momentarily. So on Friday, we were supposed to be at Gardner Edgerton High School for their high school football game against Olathe East. And it got canceled at the 11th hour. We came on the air on Friday morning and we said we need a game to go to tonight. And we had a bunch of athletic directors and coaches reach out. And there are some of you I still need to get back to via email. I will do that today. I apologize for that. But Friday was kind of chaotic trying to get a game on the air because we were told after being approved to do our broadcast from Gardner Edgerton that we could not do it on Thursday afternoon. And I speculated that there were some things going on behind the scenes as to why we were suddenly turned down despite having this whole game lined up. We use a professional play-by-play guy, Chris Kamler, who does a great job. We have student broadcasters from both schools who end up as the color analysts for these games, along with folks down on the sidelines for halftime and postgame. And it's a way to build the future of broadcasting around Kansas City. It's been a great partnership with Sportscaster.com. They have been tremendous to work with on all this. And we've done a bunch of games around the Metro, both sides of state line. So the game gets canceled on Thursday. And what I found out on Friday from the athletic director is that he was upset with us asking the student broadcasters to get some stories and find out some information about their classmates who are playing in the game that you would not get on a traditional broadcast. Now, we've done this for going on a couple of months now. What we're doing is trying to give you stories about these players that you're not going to get from other broadcasts being done around Kansas City. That's part of the charm of using student broadcasters. We're not trying to do any gotcha journalism here. We're not trying to break any news about kids and where they're committing necessarily. I mean, that's not really the goal, but it's just kind of finding out about these players in a way that you might not find out about them if you're doing a traditional broadcast with, two guys who are older who don't know the student athletes who are playing. Once again, it's part of the charm. The AD at Gardner Edgerton decided to be offended by this request. He said that we should have asked him first for approval for the students to talk to their fellow classmates about what they would be comfortable sharing on the air. And once he saw that we were asking the student broadcasters to find out things about their fellow classmates that would make for good radio, he pulled the plug on our broadcast. So you have an AD with an ego who decides that he is going to take away a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity from these student broadcasters because he was upset with a questionnaire. I'm not even mad at him. I'm just shocked. And I really feel bad for the kids. Because I know that's something that if I had had that opportunity and I was a day away from having the opportunity and I had it taken away from me, this is not like being on a stream with 7 people watching. You're talking about being on a 100,000-watt radio station around Kansas City. It's a big deal. And to have that taken away from a young person who maybe wants to do this for a living and something that, regardless of what they do with their lives, when they're talking to their grandkids, when they're in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they're rocking on that front porch, they would have remembered that game. I guarantee you, they would have remembered the moment where they were part of a broadcast crew on KCMO Talk Radio calling the Gardner-Edgerton Olathe East High School football game. And because of an AD, these kids did not have that opportunity. Because of the ego of an AD, these kids did not have that opportunity. And once again, is high school, is middle school, is any of this, K through 12 education, is it about the kids or is it about the adults? And unfortunately, at least in the case of this game in Gardner-Edgerton, it became about the adults. And that is a darn shame.
Yeah, a Super Bowl announcer from Super Bowl 70 could have been saying, hey, my first time on the air was back on 95.7, the high school game.
So true.
Right?
That's so true, John. And instead, that opportunity was taken away from the kids. So instead, what we did is we went to, Blue Valley West against Blue Valley Southwest. And the reason we chose that game, not that those of you that reached out weren't being helpful. I do appreciate all of you doing it. But we went back to Blue Valley West because technically speaking, we had done a game there. We knew what the setup was going to be like. So when you had to turn that around in 12 hours, we needed to go somewhere where we knew the technical setup would work, and we had done it before. So that's why we elected to go back to that game. But all of you that reached out, the ADs, the coaches, we are grateful for you. We will consider this for next year's schedule, assuming the partnership continues with Sportscaster.com, which we believe that it will. If you want to yell at somebody for the scheduling, yell at Mark, because Mark does all the scheduling for these games of the week. And we're looking forward to what's going to be a great season. But it really is just too bad that, the Gardner-Edgerton deal went down the way it did. I feel for the kids.
Yeah, I thought we had two good schools there, but I know better for next year.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad. I feel bad for Olathe East, too, because their kids got hosed. So, and it was no fault of their own. Mike in Olathe, what's up, Mike?
I'm trying to be very careful about this, but this isn't about ego. This is about fear. It may sound like ego, but this is how they operate over there. I have two granddaughters in the school, and a lot of kids and grandkids and stuff. This is how they operate. It's out of fear. And what happens is when you're afraid to just do good things or talk about truth or talk about normalcy, and you don't allow it, and you ostracize those who do, you end up getting your ass bitten off later because of that. So now what they've done is they've affected the school, not just negatively, but long term. But that's the atmosphere. And I know it's not just there. There's other places like it. But when you're afraid of what might happen, and all it is football, for heaven's sakes, and a team and an operation that runs well, and it was a great game. I was thinking you were there. I was watching it, thinking, oh, my gosh, this is a good game to have on the radio. I had no idea. I think it's more out of fear and how they operate than ego, per se.
Fear of what?
Fear of whatever. I'm just saying they had the teacher.
Well, hold on. Let me just say this. There was another radio station that was there as well, I guess, for this game. There was some belief that they were the ones blocking us, and that turned out not to be true.
Yeah, I would say it's more of a.
I think it's control. I think it's control and it's ego. I mean, I will, if you want to say it's partially fear, but I would say it's control and ego because I don't know what they would be afraid of.
I agree. I don't either, man. And that's a weird dynamic. So that's why it's a little. It's just weird. It doesn't make sense. That's all it is. It's frustrating.
Yeah,
and I'm with you on that. So.
And I don't care about the administration. I just feel bad for the kids. That's what this is about. Giving these kids an opportunity to have a once-in-a-lifetime experience. That's it. It's not about anybody else. It's not about us. We got a game on the air. It's not about us or this radio station or anything else. It's about giving these kids an opportunity, and they had it taken away from them. And that is that's a damn shame.